This is Chapter 11, The Powers of Congress, discussion number 3, Other Expressed Powers of Congress. So, Congress has economic powers, but they also have other expressed powers. Most of these powers, as you've noticed, are listed in Article 1, Section 8. For example, they have the power to regulate bankruptcy proceedings. See, what was normal practice in the 1700s, 1600s is that if you were in debt, the guy could have you thrown into prison, and then you'd have to wait until people essentially paid your debt to let you out. And so that's not what the American Constitution was going to allow. So they have set up guidelines of how to deal with bankruptcy or people who can't pay their bills. Government also has the power to regulate the naturalization process of new citizens. So what exactly do you have to do in order to qualify to be a citizen? Those criteria are set up by the United States government. A lot of it is implemented on the state level, but it is established on the federal level. Now, it also has the power to establish post offices and post roads to ensure that the mails would get to where they're supposed to go. See, in that time, there was a lot of dirt road paths that people would ride their horse on in order to get mail from one town to another, and sometimes it was not very safe, whether it be muddy roads or people who are acting less than legally, and so to protect the mails, ensure the efficient distribution. On top of that, remember that since the post office is part of the United States federal government, that it cannot be taxed by the state governments. So therefore, they don't pay tax on their gasoline. They all have different license plates. You can't get taxes off of the property that the post office is sitting on. Those types of things. The idea that to establish post offices and post roads also gives the government an idea that they can prevent the use of their mail system in order to commit fraud or to deliver outlawed materials. Now, government also in the Constitution has the power to protect intellectual property. This means that what you think of belongs to you and that everyone else doesn't get to use it for free. So if it's a creative work, writing or music, you have a copyright. And so therefore, for your entire life, anyone who wants to use what you've written or what you've drawn or things of that nature, they have to come to you and ask permission to use it. On top of that, your estate gets to use it generally for 50 years after you've died. After those 50 years, it's considered to be common use or commonly available, and therefore it's pretty much going to be free of charge. Now, if you do something scientific, whether it's design a new machine or improve a machine or something of science nature, you can obtain a patent where you can have generally it's 17 years where you have the exclusive right to allow to either manufacture it yourself or to allow other people to manufacture it. Now, there's a big debate on what exactly is copyright versus patent when it comes to, say, software. Also, medicines sometimes kind of go back and forth as far as do they get 17 years protection, or is the public good necessary that they need it to release sooner, or how that's going to be dealt with. But these are general ways that things are being handled. Also, it has the power to fix the standards of measurement. What exactly is a second or an hour? What exactly is a yard? What exactly is a pound? When you go to the grocery store or you pump gas, what exactly is that measurement? The United States government actually has official standards for what these are. They actually have a metal bar sitting in Washington, D.C. that is the definition of a pound. Exactly, that's what it is. They also have another metal bar that is exactly 1 yard long, and that is the standard. So that's what it means to fix the distance, so not everyone's making it up as they go. Now, another expressed power of the United States Congress is the idea that they can acquire territory, they can manage that territory. How is it going to be kept care of, and how are they going to, and they have the power to sell it if they so desire. Now, this goes along with the inherent power of controlling the territory of a sovereign country, and we talked about that back in chapters 3 and 4. Now, The idea that the government has complete control. Now, it's granted everyone that they can have the right to private property, but what if the government wants to take it back? Well, the Constitution says that they can take the land as so long as it's for public use. And this power is referred to as eminent domain. So the Fifth Amendment says that, yeah, they can take the land, but they also mean that they have to pay you a fair market price for what they take. Now, the definition of what is public use is up for great debate. There was a Supreme Court case that was decided about let's say 2008, 2009, where they were going to take land from private individuals and then they were going to give it to a development company so that they could get higher priced housing in that area, and then that would increase the tax base, and that's how they got the public use out of it. A lot of people got upset about that case, but that's kind of like the ruling idea right now of what exactly is eminent domain. Now, we've had eminent domain considerations here in Franklin County. For example, Exit 17, where all the cool restaurants are right now. For a long period of time, farmers had that land and they didn't want to give it up. And they tried all sorts of legal maneuvers trying to prevent the federal government and then the state of Pennsylvania from building on that property the ramps that were needed for Exit 17. Obviously they lost because we now have it, but it's also the reason why we don't have nice clover leaves and why it's kind of hard to see when you get up to those top of those exits looking for traffic either way, because they were stuck with having to design it that way in order to deal with some of the eminent domain rulings. Also, US 30 used to be only 3 lanes going from Chambersburg out toward Fayetteville. It's now 5 lanes. When they took that land and made those 2 extra lanes, they had to pay every single person who owned property along that route on US 30 for the fair market price for the parts of their front yard that they took in order to create those 2 extra lanes. And also, the Letterkenny Army Depot used to be a huge amount of land that was being farmed until they decided they had to build Letterkenny, and they essentially kicked all the farmers and all the people who lived on that property off the land, and they had to pay them fair market price. So those are just some examples here in Franklin County about the idea of eminent domain. Now, another power of the United States Congress is that they do have the power to declare war. Now, what exactly does it mean to declare war has been a very debatable idea in the last 80 to 90 years. The last time that Congress actually declared war was World War II. Of course, we've been involved in Vietnam, and we've been involved in Korea and several other. We also had Afghanistan, Iraq, all these other different battles that we've said that the Congress has given permission for the president to send troops there. A lot of times there hasn't been actually a declaration of war. Now, Congress has that permission to declare war, not the president, even though the president is the commander-in-chief. So those are some expressed powers of the United States Congress. This concludes discussion number 3, Other Expressed Powers of Congress, as part of Chapter 11, The Powers of Congress.